Mary had a big ass lamb, and he's a murderer. Mary did not have a little lamb. She had a little lamb, and then it grew up. So I guess the sequel would be called The Silence of the Lambs. No, I think that title's taken. Mary Had a Little Lamb is a United Kingdom slasher film that is based on the obvious, nursery rhyme that we're all familiar with. And this is not something unique or original to that country as of right now. They are taking all of these types of things, whether they're beloved childhood classics like Winnie the Pooh, or, this, or a Jack in the Box, or Humpty Dumpty, or Three Blind Mice. They're making one after the other currently. And funny enough, some of the actresses in this, two of the actresses were in Three Blind Mice. I actually talked about them being in this, saying I hope they get nude in this one since they didn't in the last one, and teased it a bunch. They did not. They did not. Very disappointing. 2 movies in a row. But also one of the actresses, one of those 2 actresses is also in Winnie the Pooh. So they just seem to be grabbing the same people for these movies. So this is about a radio show host who is having plummeting ratings after her cold case files are thought to be too cold for interest, and the advertisers are pulling out their funding. And so her boss is on her ass, and he's like, you got to bring me something better. And so she goes out to investigate a cold case herself with her little crew. And when they get out there, they meet a woman named Mary. And she's got a big old lamb. She's got a big old secret in the way of a tall lamb man. Yeah, no. So I thought that this was definitely going to be like a dude in a lamb mask. Oh no, this is like a human hybrid. Sheep man murderer. The film definitely takes a lot of inspiration from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's very obvious when you watch it. The ending is almost identical. So yeah, that's something to note here. As far as the movie goes, I'm usually pretty, I would say, kind to these United Kingdom fairy tale-esque horror spins that they've been doing. I gave favorable review to the Jack in the Box movies. I gave a favorable review to the first Humpty Dumpty movie. The second one is absolute trash. Winnie the Pooh I didn't like, but I feel like I'm pretty fair with these. And unfortunately, while this is a slasher movie, that's probably what makes me not like it as much, because even though, as usual with these United Kingdom movies, they very much take themselves completely seriously, and they try to give you a really good attempt at acting and a story and everything. They're not just saying like, oh, this is goofy, so we're just going to be goofy, which I always respect, and I'm totally on board with that. And I think that the story here is fairly generic. It's not something we've ever, it's not something we haven't seen before. We've seen it plenty. And as I said, there's a lot of, homages and inspiration taken from Texas Chainsaw. So that alone into itself is showing us that this is not an original idea. These do feel like cash grabs to a degree, right? But they also try, at least, so I'll give them that. I felt the acting in this was pretty standard when it comes to these other types of movies that we're dealing with, which, the aforementioned ones, which is not particularly great, and it's not particularly terrible. It's just amateurish and serviceable enough. So I don't hate it, but the fact that it's a slasher movie that does try to be fairly brutal and tries to be mean-spirited at times, because our lamb killer here is, pretty vicious. There's nothing to be shown. And that, of course, is always going to get under my skin. I'm always going to get frustrated when you're not building great tension, when you don't have amazing characters, when you don't have atmosphere that's thick and rich, and you don't have a wonderful soundtrack to complement it, right? Like a movie like Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they have something to them. Texas Chainsaw has the grittiness and the more like almost found footage style feel to it, where you feel like it's really happening. And then Halloween obviously is just oozing atmosphere and wonderful music and fun characters and, you know, an iconic villain and all that. So we can get away without, you know, with not having the gore and the nudity. Even, I guess technically, you know, Halloween does have nudity. But this one, it really just has nothing to offer in the way of like what we're there for, because it isn't very successful in those other areas that it would need to be successful in for it to not have the graphic kills, right? I feel like this would definitely be bumped up if the kills were like super graphic and, you know, half the cast got naked or something. Then I would be sitting here telling you a completely different story. I'd be like, yeah, it's cheesy and yeah, it's silly, but man, the kills were great. The babes were hot. They got, you know, they showed off things. Then I would be all about it, right? Or, of course, if they were able to make this atmospheric, you know, great music, cool villain, backstory, all this stuff was like really landing for me. And then they were like, oh, we're not going to show you anything though. Then I'd be like, okay, it's fine. I'd love both. Both is my absolute, you know, dream when it comes to a slasher. But this really had neither. So yeah, unfortunately, this one didn't work for me. I didn't really care for anything. The movie only is about an hour and 10 minutes long, if you cut the credits off, and there's no real resolve to anything. It just kind of ends because it's trying to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you don't really get a resolve to like the whole story set up at the beginning with like the radio show. I guess you're just fill in the blanks there, and they want to leave you on this like, you know, dark closing. But honestly, I'm fine with it where it ended because I just didn't care anymore. But it just kind of felt also like a little bit of a, like, I don't know, like it wasn't finished in addition to really not holding my interest all that much. But, you know, I've seen worse films for sure. It's definitely not the worst film of the year. But if you saw Three Blind Mice, it's probably comparable to that one. Of all the ones I mentioned, I would put it about right around that area. Just very subpar, very generic, and a slasher film without any style or gore or anything fun. So yeah, not my thing. But if you like really, you know, tame slasher movies with no nudity and like very little style and atmosphere and the story is generic, then maybe this one's for you. But that's it. I'll keep trying though. I'll keep trying. I know Winnie the Pooh's got another one coming out. I'm sure I'll check that one out as well, even though they changed Winnie. I saw a picture recently and somebody said that was Winnie, and I was like, are you sure that's not like freaking Tigger or something? Because that ain't the one from the first one, so why would they change it? Who knows? We'll see. All right, guys,